You look around at this world, the noise, the rushing, the screens, the emptiness behind people's eyes, and something deep inside you recoils, not with judgment, with grief. You feel nostalgic for a time you never lived. You feel homesick for a place you can't name. And you've wondered, why do I feel like I don't belong in this era? Dolores Cannon spent 45 years finding the answer, and what she discovered will change the way you see everything, including yourself. Most people who feel this spend their entire lives trying to fix it, trying to fit in, trying to feel comfortable, trying to belong. They think something is wrong with them. Nothing is wrong with you. In her 45 years of QHHT sessions, quantum healing hypnosis therapy, Dolores Cannon documented thousands of souls who carried this exact feeling, and what the deeper consciousness revealed again and again across thousands of different people in different countries speaking different languages was always the same. You didn't come here to belong to this world. You came here to change its frequency. Dolores called them the volunteers, souls who had evolved beyond the need for another Earth incarnation, souls who did not have to come here, but souls who chose deliberately, consciously, to enter this exact timeline at this exact moment in history. And almost every single one of them carried the same feeling. I was born in the wrong time. Not as a metaphor, not as depression, not as imagination, as a literal soul memory from before birth. Your feeling of not belonging in this era is not a wound. It is a signal. It means your frequency hasn't been fully absorbed by 3D. It means you're still carrying what you came with. That is not something to overcome. That is something to understand and consciously use. So what does it actually mean to use this? Dolores was always practical. She didn't want her clients leaving sessions feeling special but directionless. Here is what her work consistently revealed. The first thing to understand, your presence itself is the mission. Many volunteers spend years, sometimes decades, waiting for their mission to arrive, waiting for a clear instruction, a dramatic calling, a moment where the path becomes obvious. Dolores found that for most volunteers, especially those carrying what she called anchor frequency, the mission is not something you do, it is something you are. Every room you walk into, you change the frequency of. Every conversation you have, you bring a different quality of consciousness to. Every time you choose not to react with fear, not to collapse into the collective anxiety around you, you are doing the work you came to do. This is not passive. This is precise. This is deliberate. This is the mission. You don't need a title. You don't need a platform. You don't need permission. Your frequency is already working, whether you know it or not. The question is whether you start working it consciously. The second thing, you have to stop leaking your frequency. Dolores documented that volunteers are extraordinarily sensitive to the energies around them, and this sensitivity, when unmanaged, becomes absorption. You walk into a heavy environment and you take it on. You spend time with someone in fear or anger and you leave depleted. You watch the news for an hour and you feel like something was taken from you. That's not weakness. That's how your system works. The problem is not the sensitivity. The problem is not knowing the difference between feeling an energy and carrying it. You were designed to feel everything. You were not designed to keep everything. Using your power consciously means becoming deliberate, very deliberate, about where you place your attention, your time, your energy. Not from fear, from precision. A surgeon is selective about their instruments, not because they're afraid, but because precision matters. You are the instrument, protected accordingly. The third thing, your specific discomfort is your specific assignment. This is one of the most consistent findings across all Dolores's documented sessions. The area of life where you feel most out of place, most frustrated by how things are, is almost always the area where your frequency is most needed. If the displacement hits hardest in how people relate to each other, your mission lives there. If it hits hardest in how the world treats the natural world, your mission lives there. If it's in healing, in creativity, in systems that have stopped serving, follow that discomfort, not away from it, toward it. It is pointing at something, not randomly, precisely. Dolores found the volunteers who feel most out of place in a specific area are almost always the ones who carry the frequency that area needs most. Your discomfort is a compass. Start reading it like one. The fourth thing, the feeling of displacement is not meant to last forever. Dolores was very clear about this. The sense of not belonging, the grief, the homesickness, the waiting, is a feature of the early phase of activation. It exists to keep you from fully merging with a frequency you came to transform. If you felt completely comfortable here, you would become here, and you can't transform what you've become. The displacement is protective. It keeps you slightly outside the frequency you're meant to shift, so you can hold the contrast, hold the alternative, hold the vision of what could be. But as you activate, as you begin to understand and use your mission consciously, that feeling begins to transform. It doesn't disappear, it changes quality. It stops feeling like exile and starts feeling like purpose. So how do you actually begin living this? Here are the 7 steps Dolores's work consistently pointed toward for souls in this position. Step 1. Identify where your displacement is loudest. Sit quietly, not to meditate, just to listen. And ask yourself, in what area of life do I feel most strongly that things should be different? Not with resentment, not with frustration, with genuine curiosity. Write it down. That area, the one that bothers you most, the one you can't stop thinking about, the one that feels most wrong, is your compass point. Most volunteers overlook this because they assume their mission must feel inspiring. It doesn't always. Sometimes it feels like a wound that won't close. That wound is pointing at something. Step 2. Stop waiting for permission. Dolores found that many volunteers carry a deep pattern of waiting to feel ready, waiting for confirmation, waiting for someone to recognize them and assign them a role. This waiting is one of the primary ways the mission gets delayed. The confirmation you're waiting for is not coming from outside. It's already here, in the recognition you feel right now as you listen to this. That recognition is the permission. You don't need anyone to tell you you're ready. Your soul already knows. Step 3. Begin where you are, with what you have. The mission does not begin when conditions are perfect. It does not begin when you figured everything out. It does not begin when you have more time, more money, more certainty. It begins when you decide to use your frequency deliberately in your current circumstances, in your current relationships, in your current daily life. The scale expands naturally from there, but it begins exactly here, exactly now. Dolores found volunteers who waited for perfect conditions never started. Volunteers who started imperfectly activated. Step 4. Protect your energy as a professional practice. This is not optional for a volunteer. This is not selfish. This is maintenance. You would not ask a surgeon to operate without their instruments. Your energy is your instrument. Become deliberate about what you consume, what you read, watch, listen to. Become deliberate about who you spend extended time with, whose frequency you're absorbing regularly. Become deliberate about your environments, the spaces where you work, rest, and exist. This is not about building walls. It's about staying calibrated. An instrument that's constantly absorbing interference can't hold a clear signal. You need a clear signal. Step 5. Find one other person who carries this knowing. Just one. Dolores was consistent. Volunteers are not meant to operate in complete isolation. You don't need a large community. You don't need a tribe. You don't need a following. You need one genuine connection with someone who understands what you carry. Someone you don't have to explain yourself to. Someone who already knows. If you don't have that yet, begin looking. They are already looking for you, and they are closer than you think. Step 6. Practice deliberate frequency holding. Once a day, even for 5 minutes, consciously hold the frequency of what you know is possible. Not wishful thinking, not visualization as performance, deliberate energetic intention. Sit still, breathe, and hold. In your body, not just your mind, the feeling of the world you know could exist. Dolores found that this practice done consistently is one of the most direct ways a volunteer fulfills their anchor function. You don't need to be on a stage. You don't need an audience. 5 minutes of deliberate frequency holding is doing the work. Step 7. Trust the timing of your own activation. If you are watching this and recognizing yourself, you are already in the process. The activation has already begun. You don't need to force acceleration. You don't need to manufacture urgency. You need to stop resisting what is already happening. Dolores found the volunteers who activated most fully were not the ones who pushed hardest. They were the ones who stopped fighting themselves. The mission doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to be present. When you begin living this way, deliberately, consciously, as a soul on mission rather than a person trying to fit in, Dolores documented very specific shifts. Not dramatic, not overnight, but real. The exhaustion changes quality. You still get tired sometimes, but it becomes the tiredness of meaningful work, not the depletion of constant resistance. There is a difference between tired because you fought yourself all day and tired because you gave something real. You begin to feel that difference. Your relationships reorganize. People who were never truly aligned with your frequency begin to naturally fall away. Not through conflict, not through drama, through a quiet divergence, like two rivers that were briefly the same water separating again. And people who carry similar knowing begin to appear, often in unexpected places, often at unexpected times. This is not coincidence. This is frequency matching frequency. The urgency softens. The feeling that you were running out of time, that you should be further along, that you've wasted years, begins to dissolve. As you realize you are exactly where your mission requires you to be. Every experience you've had, every loss, every year you felt lost was preparation. not punishment. The displacement transforms. The feeling of not belonging in this time, it doesn't disappear, but it changes. It stops feeling like a wound and starts feeling like a reminder of where you came from and what you came here to do. Dolores described this shift as the moment a volunteer stops being lost in the mission and starts being the mission. Not someday, now. I want to say something directly to you before we close. You have spent years, possibly decades, carrying a feeling you couldn't explain and couldn't share. A feeling that made you wonder if something was wrong with you, if you were too sensitive, too different, too much. Nothing was wrong with you. You were a soul carrying a frequency this world wasn't ready to receive yet, and you held it anyway. Through confusion, through isolation, through all the years of not knowing why you felt the way you felt. That is not weakness. That is extraordinary strength. Dolores Cannon spent her life documenting people exactly like you. And in thousands of sessions across thousands of souls, the message from the deeper consciousness was always the same. You were not lost. You were never lost. You simply hadn't remembered yet. You are remembering now. If this video reached something real in you, something you felt but never had words for, I want to hear from you. Write in the comments, "I remember," and tell me, which part of this hit you hardest? Was it the displacement feeling, the waiting, the knowing that your presence itself is the mission? Tell me, because everyone reading those comments is in the same process of remembering, and your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. If this reached you at the right moment, share it with one person who needs it. You'll know who. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next on this channel. You didn't find this video by accident. Nothing about your path is accidental. I'll see you in the next one.